بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل للمؤمنين يغضوا من أبصارهم ويحفظوا فروجهم ذلك أزكى لهم إن الله خبير بما يصنعون صدق الله العلي العظيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. One of the benefits of this month of Ramadan is that we go through a cycle of tazkiyah, a cycle of purification. We get an opportunity to ponder very closely into our soul, into our nafs, and perform tazkiyah and purification from things we usually don't get this opportunity outside of the month of Ramadan. And I think it has to do a lot from the aspect that we are fasting. And when we are already going through that difficult, and it's one of those ibadat where there's no showing off. You can show off doing some other ibadat. For example, you can show off while you're praying. You can show off when you're doing zakat or khums. Or you can show off when you're doing, for example, amr bil maruf, nahi anil munkar, or hajj, or for other matters. But it's very hard for you to, abstain from eating and drinking for 17 hours and show off. When you're abstaining from food and drink and all of the other things, then there's really anything that you're doing for vanity reasons or for anyone, for riyah purpose, right? For showing off. It does become an obligation in a sense that you sincerely perform it. So when we get this opportunity, and that is the reason, there's this special power that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us in the month of Ramadan. Otherwise, we would be fasting all year long, right? Because we have this obligation first, and secondly, there's this tawfiq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we're able to fast during this month of Ramadan. So when that's happening, you're already to an extent ready and acceptable. Then when it comes to this purification, you go along with it as well, that I've come along this much, let me go this much as well. So there's a great opportunity for anyone to go ahead and perform this purification during this month of Ramadan. You go through a whole month cycle of refraining from things, which would normally be okay for you to do, but as an extra precaution. And when you do that, obviously when you perform your obligation with all of its dimensions covered, not just one aspect of it, then alhamdulillah, you can perform this tazkiyah. So it's a great opportunity. Use this opportunity. The ayat that I recited is from Surah Nur, verse number 30, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about addressing, tell the faithful men to cast down their looks and to guard their private parts. That is more decent for them. Allah indeed is well aware of what they do. The discussion in this particular ayat is the discussion of hijab for men, and then the next ayat is hijab for women. The hijab is not just for women as we have accustomed to know. It is for men as well. As Allah mentions the hijab for men first, then He mentions the hijab for women. He says what? He says, tell the believing men to cast down their looks and to guard their private parts. That's the hijab for men. And then it says this is more decent for them if they were to go ahead and perform this. And indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of mimma yasna'un, what they do, what they make of. The word yaghuddu comes from the root ghadda. Yaghuddu, which is being used over here to cast down, comes from the root word ghadda, which means to cut down or lower. Hence we read in the ahkamat or the advices of Luqman to his son was what? وَغْضُضْ مِنْ صَوْتِكَ وَغْضُضْ مِنْ صَوْتِكَ وَخْفِضْ مِنْ صَوْتِكَ وَخْفِضْ مِنْ So there's also وَغْضُضْ, also the word غُضْ is also used, which means to lower. That means, not to completely shut it down, rather just to lower it. So here we see the word which is used, غَضُّ بَصَرْ, to lower your eyes, to cast down your sight. It doesn't mean to close your eyes, because if you close your eyes, you'll run into things and you will not be able to walk properly. So it means lower your eyes in respect to that which you're not supposed to look up to. The word furuj means private parts, which must be covered from the onlooker's eyes. Although in other places in Quran, the same word is used for, protection of private parts. Over there is referred to as adultery. For example, when it says قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, إِلَى آخِرِ, it says وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ. Over there it's referring towards not the protection of private parts. Indirectly it's basically saying stay away from this adultery. But this verse, based on some tradition, it means protection of eyes from seeing unlawful things. So there's the concept. So the concept is right now in front of you, and inshallah we'll go into as to what the ahkam says in regards to this. So ayat of Quran is very clear, that you must cast down your looks when it comes to looking at things which are unlawful for you to look. What are these things which are unlawful for us to look? This is where the mentioning of the hijab for men is discussed. Tradition about looking, when we read, it says from Amirul Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam, في حديث ال400 قال لكم أفضل نظرة إلى المرأة فلا تتبعوها نظرة أخرى واحذروه الفتنة. وَاحْذَرُوا الْفِتْنَةَ. It says what? It says the first look is allowed for you. The first look that you lay down on, a lady who's not mahram to you. First look that you lay down upon them is allowed. But consecutive looks is something, Imam says, فَلَا تُتْبِعُوهَا نَظْرَةً أُخْرَى. Do not have this continuous or the consecutive looks, which are problematic and will lead to corruption. Now it's very difficult in this day and age. Now question might arise. For example, a person who's a teacher, who's teaching, he's got his students who are men and women. Well, there's a different story. It's usually when you are by yourself, this is where shaitan enables you to go ahead and do things which are out of ordinary. So when you are standing in front of your classroom, you got men and women, you got girls and boys, there's nothing wrong when you look at your students, whether female, with the purpose of teaching them, and you look again and again and again. It's not what the law is saying over here. Or for example, a speaker, because I've visited some communities where women just sit in the back. Men are sitting in front. They don't have multiple halls, so they just have one hall. Men are sitting in front, women are sitting in the back. So if I just keep my head down all the time and do not make eye contact, I will not be able to convey my point properly. Therefore, there's nothing wrong when this is some sort of setting like this. But here it's referring to when you and I are by ourselves, and when there's a chance that shaitan might be able to penetrate and be able to misguide us. So one look is something which is permissible, but the consecutive look is what Imam is making it to be impermissible. Reason is because it will lead to the moral corruption. We read in another hadith that says all the eyes will be weeping on the day of judgment. Every eye will weep on the day of judgment except three. Eye which is fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That eye which is fearful of God and the commands of the God. Eye which was lowered in front of sins. Such similar is the case over here. And the eye which remains vigil all night long in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you have one of these three eyes, the one who stands up all night long or part of the night to perform the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as one of the hadiths from our 11th Imam mentions that إِنَّ الْوُصُولَ إِلَى اللَّهِ سَفَرٌ لَا يُدْرِكُ إِلَّا بِإِمْتِطَاءِ اللَّيْلِ. That if you want to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the best way to reach Him is at night time. The night time is when you're able to seclude yourself with your Lord and you're able to worship without any show off or without any ra'ah. So these are the three eyes which will not be weeping on the day of judgment. Whereas every single eye will be weeping. One which was closed in front of the sins, which remained open for the ibadat all night long, and the third one which was fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His commands. In Sahih Bukhari, Prophet said, don't sit in the path of people Some people replied, we don't have any choice. This is our work. We have to sit in the path of the people so that we can get some business and we can work. Prophet then added, then pay the dues. People asked, what should we do? وَمَا حَقُّ الطَّرِيقِ قَالَ غَضُّ الْبَصَرِ. He said, cast your gaze, lower your eyes, lower your sight. وَكَفُّ الْأَذَى وَرَدُّ السَّلَامِ وَأَمْرٌ مِّلْمَعْرُوفِ وَنَهْيٌ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. This is the due of the path that you are occupying. If you're sitting in a path, and if there are people constantly going by, men or women, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to cast or lower your eyes. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And so these similar instructions have appeared in the kalam of other prophets as well. We read in regards to Hazrat Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, avoid looking at the mahram, as it will plant the seed of lust in your heart, which is enough for your corruption. He said, Prophet Musa told you, la taznu, do not commit adultery. I'm telling you, don't think about committing adultery. The two different things. He said, he told you not to commit the act. I'm telling you, not even think about committing the act. Why? He said, imagine if there was a room which was painted in white, right? If you burn something inside this room, if you build a fire, what will happen? Even if you don't burn down the house, the walls will be tarnished, or the walls will feel the ashes and will be darkened by this, even if you don't burn it down. He said, the mind of insan is the same way. Even if you don't commit this act, the fact that you're thinking about it, it will lead towards other moral corruption. So he said, don't even think about it. He said, that's why Amirul Mu'mineen mentioned this, Al-Ainu Ra'idul Qalb, or Baridul Qalb. You know, the postman, when you give a letter these days, we're used to writing emails and sending text messages. There's not so much writing letters anymore, but there's still people who still use and they write with their handwriting and they send letters. That still goes on, especially in the older communities. But nonetheless, Imam is saying what he said, Al-Ainu Ra'idul Qalb. Al-Ainu Baridul Qalb. Your eye does the job of a postman or the mailman when it comes to your heart. Things that you see through your eyes quickly get transferred into your heart. Even if you say it will not affect me if I take a look at it, if I continuously look at it, no, it will definitely implant the seed of corruption in the heart. And this is where it says, Al-Ainu Masa'idu Shaitan. The eye is a den for shaitan from where he ambushes his victim. Prophet Muhammad, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when we look at the conformity and the how all of these ahadith that I'm mentioning they're in conformity with the ayat that I have recited, how the kalam of Masumin is so very close to one another. And that's why we understand when imams say that awwaluna Muhammad, right, awsatuna Muhammad, wa akhiruna Muhammad, wa kulluna Muhammad, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. They're not saying it from the aspect that we're all named Muhammad. In fact, if you look at it, the first one is Muhammad al-Mustafa. The middle one is Muhammad al-Baqir. The last one is Muhammad al-Mahdi. So from that aspect we understand. But what Imam is saying over here is that we're all Muhammad from the aspect that we say the same thing. We might have different words, but utterings of different words, but they are basically the same thing. What the first one, you would not find any sort of contradiction or conflict amongst the kalam of Ma'sumin. So Prophet said, "An-nazaru sahmun masmumun min sihami iblis, wa man tarakaha khawfan min Allah, atahu Allahu imanan yajidu halawatahu fi qalbi." Very beautiful. It says, a bad look is a poisoned arrow from the arrows of Iblis. Someone said, cursing at Iblis. He said, he's shooting arrows towards you and you're cursing. You need a shield to protect yourself. Imagine someone is shooting at you, and all you do is just curse him from your tongue. No, that's not going to help you at all. In fact, you're corrupting your own tongue with that. You're not going to be able to protect you. You need a shield to protect from the oncoming arrows. You don't defend by just saying something over there. So he said, whoever closes his eyes with the fear of Allah, Allah will grant him faith, sweetness of which can be felt from within. That when you are given this, halawat, a lot of time we see that, it is mentioned when you perform the ibadat, when you're worshipping. You see those who are devotedly praying, and when they're reciting the du'as, tears are coming down. They're weeping. Yet we say we're not even able to shed one tear. And when it comes to our ibadat, we're unable to show that enthusiasm, or we're unable to. Forget about in the jama'ah of people, in the congregation. We're talking about by yourself. When praying by ourselves, are we able to show those emotions that we're standing in front of Ma'bud, right? It's very difficult, but we see a lot of people praying. We can see how they're trembling. Ma'sumin, we hear about them, and we've seen in the people as well. Why is it that it is lacking from us? So one of the reasons is because we don't feel the sweetness of ibadat. Halawat of this ibadat is lacking from us. And one of the reasons the halawat, and the sweetness of this ibadah that is taken away, is due to aklul haram, the consumption of haram. That what it does, that you no longer have the chashini, the sweetness, the halawat, when you're standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you're performing this worship. So Prophet also added, whoever fills his eyes with haram looks, his eyes will be filled with fire on the day of judgment, unless this person repents. There are certain messages that we can derive from this particular verse. We recited the verse from Surah Nur, verse number 30, قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ, tell the mu'mineen to cast down their gaze, not to look up with things in regards to those which are not supposed to be looked up, which are unlawful for them to look. Protecting the eyes from haram is a part of our faith. That's why Allah says, قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. He did not say, قُلْ لِلْإِنسَانِ قُلْ لِلْمُسْلِمِينَ قُلْ لِلْنَاسِ. He said, قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Tell the believing men, يَغِضُّ أَبْصَارَهُمْ, to go ahead and lower there. So it's part of our faith. Instinctive attraction must be controlled. يَغُضُّ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ. Protecting the eyes from seeing haram is a prelude to chastity. You become more and more modest. If you're able to control that much, then modesty will flow from within. Even when you are by yourself, you will be showing modesty, let alone. You and I are all modest. I'm sure, alhamdulillah, you all are, but I'm talking about myself. That we're all modest when we're in front of other people. When we're in the gathering of, large crowd. When we're inside a masjid, for example, majlis is going on, we're all modest when it comes to that. But the mention over here is when you are alone, when you are private, in the privacy of yourself or within your family members, that's when this modesty must exist as well. Chastity is also mandatory for men. يَحْفَظُوا فُجُورَهُمْ. It's not just for women that modesty should be addressed. For men, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses modesty for men first, then He addresses modesty for the women in ayat number 31st after this. To look at someone flirtatiously and unchastely becomes an obstacle in the spiritual growth of insan. يَغُضُّ يَحْفَظُ أَزْكَى. You look at the connection in this verse. You put these ayat together, you see how it's so connected with one another. يَغُضُّ, if you're able to lower, يَحْفَظُ, you're able to protect. If you're able to protect, أَزْكَى, then you will attain this purification. Then this purity will come. But if you are not able to yaghiddu, then you will not be able to yahfidhu, protect. Therefore, there will not be any yaska or aska in your part. We're always in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why I said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا يَصْنَعُونَ. Indeed, Allah is well aware of what you make of or what you do. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So it is worth mentioning that Quran does not tell us what should we lower our eyes from. It does not tell us that. It just leaves that as blank. So there must be a broader list of things that we must, protect our eyes from. That's why Quran just left it without mentioning. But the next verse, and we can understand that it is referring towards, that which is unlawful, obviously, when it comes to another individual, when it's na-mahram, obviously. Why? Because the very next verse is pointing our direction towards that. Similarly, when you look at an ayat of Quran, you will always find an audience for it. If you don't find it in that particular verse, go back a verse, and you will find an audience for that. For example, Surah Al-Imran 1-3 says, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. You say, who is this ayat addressing? وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ. Well, remember, this ayat is talking about Aus and Khazraj, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was able, our Prophet of Islam was able to unite them when they were fighting one another. But who is it addressing to? وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا. You go back an ayat. Ayat 102 of Surah Al-Imran says what? It says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullah haqqa tuqatihi wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. So you already have an audience as to who are being addressed over there. Similar is over here. The next ayat, although the previous ayat did not mention, what should we protect? We know who are being addressed, the mu'mineen are being addressed. But it did not say what should we protect ourselves from? The next ayat comes about and tells us what should we protect. It says, وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يغضضن من أبصارهن ويحفظن فروجهن ولا يبدين زينتهن إلا ما ظهر منها وَلْيَضْرِبْنَا بِخُمُرِهِنَّ عَلَى جُيُوبِهِنَّ. A lot of hinnas there. Why? Because all of these are the feminine verbs which are being used in this particular ayah. It's a very lengthy ayat, but we'll see that there are 4 ahkam which are being discussed in this ayah. First we talked about what should men do the hijab. What is the hijab for men? This ayat is talking about the hijab for women. And with all honesty, I think the hijab for women is easier than the hijab for men. Because hijab for women is what? They have to protect themselves. Hijab of men is what? They have to protect their eyes. Which is easier. You can protect yourself and cover yourself all you want to, but you can't protect from the onlooker's view. It's very difficult for onlooker to go ahead and cast down their gaze and to lower their sight. He said there are 4 ahkam which are being discussed in this verse for women. They must not reveal their beauty except which is visible naturally. That's the first thing that this ayat is mentioning. Second, they must cover their necks and chests as well. That is the second thing the ayat mentions. They must cover from everyone except the following 12 people. So Allah says, you must cover yourself, you must protect yourself from everyone except these 12. Who are these 12? They are obviously your maharim. These are the people who are mahram to you. It's a long list. So their husbands, their fathers, their husbands' fathers, and their sons, and so on and so forth. There's a list of those people who are considered to be mahram to us. Here it's worth mentioning that especially in our Indo-Pak culture, I don't know so much about the Iranian or the Arab culture, but specifically in the Indo-Pak culture, the concept of mahram and na-mahram is very unclear. You'll see cousins, male and female, mingling without any restriction. They'll be shaking hands, they'll be hugging, they'll be kissing and all that stuff on the cheeks. They'll be doing all of that stuff. It's like, they're not mahram to you. No, she's my cousin. Oh, he's my cousin. Just visiting us from Pakistan, visiting us from India. No matter where they're visiting you from. Or how close of cousins relationship you've had growing up with each other. When you've reached that age of maturity, now you're not mahram to one another. If you're not protecting and covering yourself, that's one thing. Let alone getting, putting the hands in hands or, mingling in that fashion, which is totally inappropriate. So I think in the Indian Pakistani culture, it's more so than the Arab or Iranian culture, but nonetheless, there's something which we need to go ahead and tell the children. A lot of times we say, no, there's no bad intentions there. No, don't forget, shaitan uses these opportunities. You and I don't know, oh, they're just family, they're just cousins. So 2 brothers are sitting with their children playing with each other. So no, they're cousins, there's nothing wrong. No, this is where shaitan uses this opportunity, seals it. And it's very easy, right away, the riwayat that I had recited, al-aynu baridul qalb, right? The look from the eyes, right away get transferred to your heart and has influence in it, and has impact on it right away. So you and I might take it easy saying, oh, that's too much. No, this is where we need to go ahead and put the brakes as well. Lastly, it says they should not walk in a way which reveals their hidden ornaments. So, first, it mentioned in regards to what they must not reveal from their beauty, which is unless that which is visible naturally, for example, their face, which is visible naturally. And then they must cover their necks and their chests as well. That is also mentioned in it. Third, they should cover from everyone except these people. Quran mentions that as well. Lastly, they should not walk in a way which reveals their hidden ornaments. So to make noise, for example, when they're walking to attract others' attention. So these are very specific laws which are mentioned. If someone comes next to you and says, next time to you and says, it doesn't say anywhere in Quran what to do as far as hijab is concerned, this ayat is right there in front of you. Ayah number 30 of Surah Nur, chapter 24, talks about the hijab for men. The ayah number 31 talks about the hijab for women. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Inshallah, we'll conclude. Although Allah didn't mention every detail about the rules of salat, about the rules of fast, about the rules of zakat, about the rules of khums, about the rules of hajj, about amr bil ma'ruf, nahi anil munkar. It was just general perception which is mentioned in Quran about fasting, praying, hajj and zakat and khums. But when we see, and he left it upon our Prophet to go ahead and further explain these wajibat which are obligatory upon him. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned every single detail when it comes to ahkam of family. When it comes to family matters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not leave anything out. In these two verses you find very minor little details of what the duty of a believing man is and what the duty of a believing woman is. We'll conclude over here. I had a longer way to go, but inshallah we get the gist of the two verses that we recited, which are talking about the hijab for both men and women. The ayat is very clear. I would urge you to go ahead and read these two verses, 30 and 31. There's lengthy verses which will mention who is mahram to you and who is not mahram to you. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.